The 1950s was a record-setting decade for science fiction movies, giving us 205 films released during that decade alone. And did it deliver with some classic and memorable science fiction movies? Some come top of mind, while others may have unintentionally slipped into the shadows behind the scenes. Let's explore a couple of those early classics that may have receded into the backs of our memories. Greetings everyone, Mike here with Sci-Fi and More, and welcome back to the channel. And if you're new here, welcome to our Team Sci-Fi family, where nostalgic positivity reigns supreme. Now, before we begin today, I would like to thank longtime subscriber at Franklin Townsend 7228 for these great suggestions. Mr. Townsend had sent me 6 movie suggestions to cover. I covered 2 in part 1 of our series. I'll cover 2 today, and I'll cover 2 in our conclusion video. And if you have not seen part 1 of our lesser-known 1950s Sci-Fi movie series, fear not, I'll post a link in the description so you can go back and check it out. Now, not every sci-fi movie that came out in the 50s was destined to be on the same level as Forbidden Planet or The Day the Earth Stood Still. But there are some that may have just flown under the radar and we may not have heard of them. That doesn't mean they were good or bad, just means they may have been missed. So, let's take a look at 2 such movies, starting with X the Unknown. Many classic sci-fi era films were driven by paranoia, often influenced by Cold War fears, centering on the concept of an enemy infiltrating society. However, X the Unknown takes a unique approach by focusing not on an external or human threat, but on a dangerous, unstoppable force from within the Earth itself. This film suggests that the greatest threat to humanity might be a natural force, latent and festering deep beneath the planet's surface. X the Unknown is a 1956 British science fiction horror film directed by Leslie Norman and produced by Hammer Film Productions with a budget of $60,000. The film is notable for making Hammer's shift from B-movie thrillers to pure horror and sci-fi, contributing to an important sci-fi horror trilogy alongside the Quatermass Experiment in 1955 and Quatermass 2 in 1957. Or did it? We'll come back to the Quatermass angle in a bit. Its plot centers on a deadly radioactive entity that emerges from a fissure in the earth during a military exercise in the Scottish countryside. This entity is investigated by Dr. Adam Royston, as it causes unexplained deaths linked to radioactive burns. As the story progresses, a sentient radioactive mud-like creature is revealed to have been disturbed during nuclear experiments emerging from beneath the earth. This scientific anomaly feeds on radiation, growing larger and more potent as it consumes energy sources. Dr. Royston and the military collaborate to understand the entity and devise a plan to stop it before it reaches populated areas and causes widespread destruction. They are in a race against time to address this potential apocalyptic threat, experimenting with ways to counter its unique properties and insatiable energy hunger. X the Unknown is recognized for its suspenseful storytelling and exploration of the fears and potential dangers of atomic energy, reflecting Cold War era anxieties regarding radiation and nuclear technology.
This movie sounds like it borrowed the idea from The Blob.
Well, that is actually a common misconception known as the Mandela effect, a phenomenon describing a collective false memory. where a large number of people share a mistaken recollection of a specific event or fact. When the Blob was released, there were more engagements with the entity, and the fact that the Blob was released in color typically brings the Blob top of mind when we think about movies featuring a blob-like creature. So there is a general belief that the Blob was the first of its kind to feature this kind of creature.
Oh, I get it. It's like how we remember Darth Vader saying, "Luke, I am your father," but he actually said, "No, I am your father."
Exactly. X the Unknown was not based on the Blob, and it was not based on a specific novel or earlier film either. It was an original story conceived for the screen by writer Jimmy Sangster, who also worked on several other Hammer film productions. Now, this film does feature a radioactive entity that emerges from the Earth and poses a significant threat due to its ability to feed on energy and emit deadly radioactive waves. The Blob, on the other hand, was released 2 years later in 1958. It centers around a gelatinous alien mass that consumes everything in its path, growing larger with each act of consumption. Though both films involve an amorphous threat and have been categorized under the science fiction horror genre, X the Unknown predates the Blob, and each film was developed independently with its own unique plot and themes. While both films feature a formless, creeping menace, they explore different themes. X the Unknown focuses on fears surrounding nuclear energy, while The Blob addresses general fears of the unknown and alien invasion. In a similar vein, the 1959 film Kal-Tiki the Immortal Monster also features an amorphous threat. Despite these surface similarities, the creatures in each film have unique characteristics and origins, shaped by their distinct narrative themes. In Kal-Tiki the Immortal Monster, the creature is an ancient blob-like entity linked to Mayan mythology, reflecting themes of ancient horrors and retribution from historical forces, akin to pulp fiction about lost civilizations and curses. While X the Unknown, Kal-Tiki the Immortal Monster, and the Blob all feature amorphous, deadly entities and belong to the science fiction horror genre, they differ significantly in theme, tone, and execution. The theme of X the Unknown centers on the conflict between man and science, highlighting the potential dangers of unchecked scientific progress, reflective of post-nuclear war fears. With a serious and atmospheric tone, the film combines scientific inquiry and horror, typical of Hammer films, and sets its narrative within the scientific and governmental frameworks of the UK. Although it wasn't revolutionary in innovation, the film contributed to trends and elements that became defining features of subsequent British science fiction and horror films. The film is rooted in sci-fi realism, using realistic settings such as scientific and military environments to add authenticity to the story. By depicting military and scientific responses to an unknown threat, it set a precedent for creating believable threat narratives in other films. Unlike many sci-fi films targeting younger audiences with fantastical plots, X the Unknown deals with serious themes like the consequences of radiation and unchecked scientific experimentation. These mature topics appealed to adult audiences and influenced other science fiction narratives to explore darker, more nuanced ideas. The film's creature, a radioactive mud-like entity, embodies the theme of unintended consequences of science, which was central to Hammer's approach to horror and sci-fi, reflecting contemporary fears of nuclear power and radiation in a subtle underlying manner, contrasting with the more overt monsters typical of that era. The creation of this amorphous radioactive entity enhances the film's exploration of these fears. The monster itself was created using a mix of stop-motion animation and practical effects. Materials such as clay, mud, and porridge, if you can believe that, provided its unstable appearance, making it seem like an unstoppable, creeping threat. Miniature sets and models were used for scenes where the entity interacted with its environment, enabling controlled depictions of its effects. Superimposition and match shots integrated the creature into live-action scenes, enhancing realism and depicting interactions with characters and objects. Plus, clever lighting effects and cinematography played a key role in creating an eerie atmosphere. Shadows and dim lighting heightened the suspense, while practical light effects suggested the creature's radioactive danger. Despite technological limitations, these innovative techniques effectively conveyed the creature's terrifying and unstoppable nature, enhancing the film's tension and suspense. And while X the Unknown didn't revolutionize the genre with novel special effects or storytelling, it influenced British science fiction by focusing on atmosphere, merging horror and sci-fi, and addressing contemporary fears about science and technology. As an early Hammer Films production work, it paved the way for Hammer to explore the horror genre further. Its success established Hammer's reputation in horror and sci-fi, inspiring later films like Quatermass 2 and eventually leading to the renowned Hammer horror style. And getting back to the Quatermass trilogy that I mentioned earlier, yes, X the Unknown was initially intended to be part of the Quatermass series. Hammer Film Productions had produced the Quatermass experiment in 1955, which was well received, and they were interested in creating a follow-up. However, Nigel Neal, the creator of the Quatermass character, was very protective of his creation, as he should be, and did not want to give Hammer permission to use the Quatermass name or character in a sequel. As a result, Hammer decided to proceed with a new science fiction film that bore similarities to the Quatermass series, but featured different characters and a distinct storyline. X the Unknown was ultimately developed as a standalone project, with the character of Dr. Adam Royston taking on the role of the protagonist instead of Professor Quatermass. Despite not being an official part of the Quatermass saga, X the Unknown retained the atmospheric and suspenseful feel that characterized the series, making it a compelling film in its own right. And fortunately, there has been no remakes, reboots, or sequels. Not only was the film made as a standalone movie, but it has maintained that golden status, remaining untouched by modern filmmakers. The next film on our list today is The 27th Day, 1957 American black and white science fiction film distributed by Columbia Pictures. It was produced by Helen Ainsworth and directed by William Asher, with the screenplay written by John Mantley, who based the screenplay on his 1956 original science fiction novel of the same name. Now, I will say this. This movie comes right out of the gate with a faster pace and a plot twist. Within the first 10 minutes of the film, the problem is revealed. So, if you haven't seen this one, don't get up to leave during the first 10 minutes. You will miss something central to the story.
Well, I got my popcorn here, and it will take me well over 10 minutes to get through it.
Oh, good. You won't miss anything critical. The 27th Day explores themes of global tension and human responsibility in the face of potential annihilation. The film begins with an alien referred to simply as the alien abducting 5 individuals from different parts of the world. An English woman named Eve Wingate, an American journalist named Jonathan Clark, a German scientist named Dr. Klaus Bechner, a Russian soldier named Ivan Godovsky, and a Chinese peasant named Su Tan. The alien presents each of them with a small, indestructible container containing capsules with the power to destroy all human life within a specific radius. The capsule containers must be activated by individual thought, ensuring only the person who received the capsule can access them. The alien explains that their home planet is dying and they need Earth for survival. However, the terms are unusual. The recipients have 27 days to decide whether or not to use the capsules, which could devastate human life on Earth. If they choose not to, the alien will withdraw and life on Earth will continue unchanged. The film builds tension as the characters struggle with moral and ethical dilemmas, weighing personal conviction against the larger fate of humanity. As the deadline approaches, their unified resistance and moral fortitude come into play. And central to the plot is the relationship and ideological interplay among the group members themselves, balancing individual survival instincts against a commitment to peace and global cooperation, ultimately seeking to find a way to neutralize the threat without resorting to violence, placing their innovative thinking and moral resolve on display to find a solution that emphasizes collective human ingenuity in the face of existential threats. Now, the alien in the 27th Day is interesting to me. He is portrayed as an advanced extraterrestrial being from a dying planet who appears to be benevolent, yet is involved in an ethically ambiguous plan concerning Earth's future, motivated from the desperate need to secure a future for his own race by potentially inhabiting the Earth. But he seeks to achieve this without initiating direct harm himself. Instead, he offers a test for humanity and gives control to humanity, leaving it up to human free will to decide whether to use the capsules. He does not impose violence, but creates a scenario where humans must confront their own capacities and tendencies towards self-destruction or peace. The alien's demeanor is calm and rational, reinforcing a sense of urgency while maintaining a distance from Earth's political structures, emphasizing that the decision and its consequences rest solely with the humans. His actions are framed by a larger ethical question of trust and the morality of forcing such a crucial decision onto Earth's inhabitants. The 27th Day is really a thought-provoking movie and contributed to the science fiction genre by exploring complex themes of morality, global politics, and human nature amidst the backdrop of Cold War tensions to move the science fiction genre forward. First, unlike many science fiction films of the era that focused on action and horror, the 27th Day raised philosophical questions about humanity's capacity for violence and peace. It placed ordinary people in a situation where their decisions could lead to the destruction or salvation of humanity, emphasizing individual responsibility and ethical decision-making. Now, like every other science fiction film released during the height of the Cold War, the movie tackles fears of nuclear annihilation and addresses the paranoia and mistrust between global superpowers. But this film used science fiction as a lens to critique real-world political tensions, demonstrating the genre's capacity for socio-political commentary. Now, if you have ever heard the term, less is more, well, this film capitalizes on that concept. The 27th Day avoided the fantastical elements common in other sci-fi movies of the time, instead opting for a realistic and down-to-earth portrayal of its science fiction premise. This approach allowed viewers to engage with the narrative in a more immediate and personal way, emphasizing the immediacy and real-world relevance of its themes. Additionally, the film focused on characters from different countries given equal power and responsibility, presenting a more global perspective, highlighting international cooperation and conflict. This approach expanded the traditional focus of science fiction films from national to international issues. And while the film included an alien presence, the film was more grounded in human psychology and strategic thinking rather than in alien technology or invasion scenarios. This focus on rationality and science-based problem solving reflected an evolution in the genre towards more intelligent and thought-provoking narratives while using a science fiction framework to delve into the deep and timely issues, encouraging reflection on the human condition and our collective future. By incorporating these sophisticated themes, the movie helped demonstrate the genre's potential for intellectual and emotional engagement. Now, there really isn't much in the way of sci-fi special effects in the 27th Day, other than the props used for the capsule container and the interior set design of the alien's ship. However, the strategic use of lighting and compositioning helped create tension and highlight the mysterious and ominous qualities of certain scenes, particularly when depicting the extraterrestrial encounters or the effects of the aliens' devices. In addition, rear projection techniques were employed to combine live action footage with pre-filmed scenes or special visual elements, allowing complex scenes to be displayed in combination with the actors' performances. Now, what does work really well was the sound design. While not a visual effect, sound played a critical role in setting the tone and conveying the futuristic and suspenseful elements of the film. Sound effects would be used to create the atmosphere for alien encounters and the activation of the capsules. Overall, the 27th Day combined these techniques to effectively create its narrative while adhering to the budgetary and technological constraints typical of this time. These effects would help convey the story's speculative fiction themes in a way that was engaging to the audience. Now, as far as any remakes or sequels, to date, there has never been a remake, reimagining, or a sequel. The 27th Day is truly a standalone movie. 2 for 2 on that point with the movies I covered today. I didn't think I'd be able to do that. Now, On a fun note, one thing I saw when I was a kid, when I saw this movie for the first time, and then again a few weeks ago when I watched it before doing this video, was how familiar the Soviet general in the movie was. Now, this may be just me, but the Soviet general in the 27th Day reminds me of the 1970 Rankin Bass character of the Burgermeister Meisterburger from the stop-motion animated Christmas special Santa Claus is Coming to Town. No toys! We all see something a little different when we watch a movie. And there you have it, Cosmic Core. We hope you have enjoyed our retrospective on some possibly less known 1950s science fiction movies. And if you did, please be sure to like, share the video, and please be sure to subscribe and stop by anytime and stay a while. Like I mentioned in the beginning, were they good? Were they bad? Or did they just fall off of our radars? Check them out and let me know in the comments below. Thank you all so very much for your continued support of our channel and being part of our sci-fi family. You are all the greatest sci-fi team on YouTube. Until next time, Cosmic Core, have a great galactic day.